You're listening to Secrets for Scaling, a Gecko Board podcast that explores the growth secrets of successful founders and CEOs. Whether you're just launching your business or taking your company to the next level, you'll learn proven strategies and tactics for growing a sustainable business. In this episode, we spoke with Larry Kim, founder of Wordstream, the industry-leading provider of search marketing management software and services. Hi, Larry. Thanks so much for joining us for Secrets for Scaling. To kick off the conversation, Wordstream was originally a side project for the company, right?
Well, basically, when I started the company, we were selling keyword research tools. So that's for search optimization for organic and paid search. But like when we brought this product to market, we quickly found out that it had a very low customer lifetime value, like 5 or 6 months. Like people would just buy the thing and then they would quit like after a few months, and that's terrible because in a software as a service business, you need to keep people on as customers for many years, like to be profitable. And so basically, when I say Wordstream was kind of the side project, what I mean by this is that we ended up pivoting the company very early on, like very quickly, from being a keyword research company to a pay-per-click advertising management platform. So the commonality here was that one of the keyword research tools that we had among the 20 or so keyword research tools that we had, one of them was involved uploading the keywords that you discovered into your AdWords platform, and we noticed that those customers were that used that particular feature would stay on like 5 times longer. You see what I'm saying? So it was kind of like the side project in that it was like one of the minor features of like 20 things, but that later became the focal point and the center of gravity for all future developments.
So it sounds like you were just monitoring how customers were using your product and saw that they were using this feature more than any of the others.
It wasn't that they were using it more, it was that the people who used that particular feature stayed longer as customers. Their lifetime value was substantially higher by like many times. And so we thought, you have a decision to make. It's like 6 months of customer lifetime value with the product you have is that's not that interesting as a business, because you're spending all this money to acquire customers, and you kind of need to make the money back over time, right? So we had to change something. You can change two things. You can change the product, or you can change the market. If you're changing the market, that means that we're going to say like, okay, well, we're going to be the high-end enterprise keyword research tools, selling this for $10,000 a month, and we're going to sell it to 500 customers. You see what I'm saying? And then that could work because these big end customers, like, they're going to need to use this thing, because it's like so powerful or something like that. The other option you have is you keep the market where it was. In our case, we were going after SMBs, like lots and lots of marketers. You don't change that, but change the product that you're selling. Something different that has different retention characteristics. And so we chose the latter.
Okay. How long did it take you to make that shift?
Exactly 1 year. And it's challenging because it's pivots, they usually don't work, because it's just such an emotional drain on people. I'm not talking about even the founder. I mean, like, sure, it was tough on me, but think about like all the people who are working in your startup, and you've got like small teams, so everyone's in the trenches working together, those engineers. It's like they've been working so hard to push this thing out the door, and a pivot means like, oops, all of our assumptions and that we had about this product and the market, we were kind of, we weren't quite, well, we basically we basically blew it. You know what I mean? And so what it means is, we're back to square one again. And so you got all these engineers who are working so hard to ship whatever it is you told them to ship, and now they're being told, no, we have to build this other thing. So all that stuff that you worked on, we're not going to ship that. You think about your marketing team, like, oh great, we've been hyping up this other thing on how great it is. No, it's like, whoops. it's this other thing that really is what you should be paying attention to. So that can be like really difficult. I end up losing a lot of people because they just get demoralized, or like they just can't handle this idea of spending a year to change directions and stuff like this. Sometimes you kind of, because they were so bought into the the previous vision, so sometimes you need to also bring in a new team, like for like that believes in the new mission as well. So they usually don't work. In our case, we were the exception. Things have been doing spectacularly well since then. We're one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America for the last 4 years. We've got over 10,000 customers. We manage $1 billion of ad spend nearly for those customers worldwide. So it's a pretty substantial business, growing very quickly. But so we dodged the bullet, I guess.
What do you think that trick was? Why do you think you guys were the exception?
So we had the ability to use data. So it wasn't just like some grand assumption, like, oops, I thought that this product, there's going to be so much demand for this product, but it didn't materialize. And in fact, they wanted something else. Like a lot of times it's based on the intuition of a founder. In terms of like, where do we plant the flag, and what hill should we try to capture? In our case, so we had a good amount of users on this keyword research platform, and we had instrumented it with a lot of logging capabilities, so we could see what features and functions were being used, and how often, and what types of features drove higher engagement rates. So like, are you logging in once a week or once a month? It makes a difference, and so we could kind of zero in on where we thought the opportunity was, based on not what people were telling us, but what they were actually doing in the product. Because customer feedback, it's notoriously terrible. It's just so they tell you the wrong things, and then there's this additional source of error where you have to interpret what it is that they're saying, and that's also completely backwards. So just pay attention to what they're actually doing, as opposed to what they're saying, and the way that you do that is through instrumentation. So I was pretty confident that that we're moving to a better space based on what I was seeing.
You guys, like you mentioned, you've grown like crazy, pretty much doubled your annual revenue since 2012, right?
We are, for the last 5 years, we are on a compound yearly revenue growth rate of over 100%, like 110%, like more than doubling every year on average. If you from 2011, when we were I think you call it 1.1 million or something like that, to today, we're going to do over 30 million this year. So that's just over a period of 5 years.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'd love to kind of take a step back and walk through some of the challenges you faced at each of those stages, starting with like prior to 3 million in 2012. What were some of the biggest struggles in reaching that milestone?
Sure. It's kind of what we've been talking about. It was just, what is the vehicle? What is the platform that you are going to base all of your future growth and sales on? And what does that churn characteristic look like, and what does that pricing look like? And so the biggest challenge was that the initial guess was a little off. I kind of overestimated the pricing power, and overestimated pricing power, and also overestimated the retention metrics, like how long would they stay on, so basically average customer lifetime value. So that took a few years to, because you build the first thing, and that takes like a year, right? And then it takes another year to kind of change directions a little bit. So that was just kind of difficult, and the biggest challenge was just getting to, I guess, what people call product market fit. We got there eventually, within the first couple of years, but that was tough.
Yeah. So it sounds like just paying attention to what customers are doing played a big role in that, in overcoming those challenges.
Yeah, and then just finding kind of the center of gravity of where you want to, like, what is the solution that you're providing. Like, in this case, it was specifically for paid advertising, challenges like that they had. So being able to kind of build a portfolio of products around and features around that pain point, such as call tracking, such as landing page hosting, such as PPC, advertising optimization, and social media ad creation and remarketing, like all these types, and reporting, like those types of things are much more sticky in terms of like ongoing value, as opposed to like a tool, like a keyword research tool that you might use, like, you're a content person, like you might use that like once a month or something,
Right.
once a year, and then you're getting the bills monthly, and you're like, do I really need this thing? Like, like that kind of thing. So trying to be a little more essential, basically.
Totally. So a couple years later, you made it to about 10 million in revenue, which is often considered the toughest phase of growth. And it seems like you got there pretty quickly. What'd that look like? What was that transition like?
Oh, that was great. Like, you've gone from like this in the trenches, and you're like not even sure if you're going to survive, kind of thing. I mean, you put on a bold face and you say like, yes, we're going to make it, but like, you don't really know with 100% certainty, like in the moment, right? But when you get to like 10 million, like, there's like all these milestones. It's like, you're moving into these big offices, and you're signing up, five or more, 10 customers a day. You know what I mean? Like it starts to feel like there's like you're on this train that's got momentum, and it's kind of carrying it forward. Was it the most difficult part? I actually think getting to the first 3 million was the most difficult part, whereas the 3 to 10 ramp was kind of just scaling in terms of doing the marketing stuff. So generating a ton more leads for the business. Like I said, we built this thing. Now we just need to find, lots of people to sell it to. And that's actually the reason why most of these companies fail. It's not because they can't build anything. It's because they can't find people to sell it to. So basically, so that's, I started doing some blogging, maybe that's how you've heard of me. It's because probably I've done some blog that you read or something. So I started doing some blogging and more paid advertising and social media marketing and all this stuff. So that really scaled up the kind of the customer lead acquisition. We actually generate tens and tens of thousands of emails of signups for various things like white papers or webinars or demos or whatever. It's like over 30,000 a month. So that's well, we're selling like hundreds and hundreds of customers every week. So basically, just scaling up the marketing infrastructure, so that we could get a blog that does millions of visitors per month, that kind of stuff, and also scaling up the sales organization so that we have enough people to close all the leads that we were generating, and so that I view as, it's not, I feel like it's just an operational thing. Like, you just need really capable operational execution. You know what I mean? It's not like magic where you have to kind of figure out some kind of a product to build, and that it does something magical. It's a different type of challenge.
How big was your team at that point?
At that point in time, you're like 20 to 35 people. So definitely kind of much like all the companies that you're working with. We did we raised some money then, because we were burning. We weren't yet like, Wordstream is profitable today, but we weren't yet profitable. Like, we're still kind of trying to sign up the customers ahead of it was more important to focus on the growth number than the EBITDA at that stage. So basically, yeah, it was 20 to 35 people.
Why do you think both your personal and WordStream's content has been so successful for the business?
So first of all, in terms of the content, the thing you need to know is like I'm very intentional about the content that I'm producing. It's not like, oh, what the heck, I write something, blah blah blah, like finger in the wind, kind of like let's write about this. So, like the top, like there's a strategy, and the strategy there's various kind of key points, but one of them is like I did a lot of competitive research, to figure out what's working, what are the just like how a company would do, competitive research on other products. Like I did a lot of competitive research on like the kind of thought leaders or whatever you call them, and what makes their content so great. And basically, the opportunities that I identified were things like, there's all these marketing gurus making claims, but none of them were backing it up with data. So like most of the marketing pieces that you see will actually have examples with like numbers and some kind of regression or some kind of like, I actually tried this out on 1,000 accounts, guys, as opposed to just, believe me, I'm the guru kind of thing. So data like that, having an engineering background, it really helps. So to be able to do that analysis, I think, it's a pretty unfair advantage. Beyond that, I just looked at the target market for the types of people who are reading my audience. Like my biggest target audience group is like millennials. They're like, like the 24 to 35 cohort is huge. And I just thought that the content that was being produced in this industry was so boring. It didn't resonate with millennials. I actually missed the cutoff for most millennials by like 6 months, but basically, I do identify with them quite a bit, and so like I'm gonna try to make this stuff funny, put more jokes and stuff, and not just stupid old jokes about Lord of the Rings or something, but like stuff that's current, like that these younger audiences would identify with. I have these like kind of a running joke between all of my content. It's like this notion of unicorns. I just like I don't write a piece that doesn't mention like unicorns and donkeys. It's just some kind of a dumb joke that I use. Like just little tricks like that. And then also quantity matters. So like it's not just like a random like maybe I'll do a post this month or not. It's like I'm trying to do like one a day kind of thing.
Wow.
So that's important. Also themes. So like not just doing one-off posts, but exploring a topic in depth, and then having like a series around that topic. I think because basically originating new research around a topic as opposed to just curating all the other stuff out there. So those are some of the tips. I mean, it's not. I'm not sure everyone can do this. But that's
not everyone is. Yeah, and you're really adding that value.
There's a couple other things. One is like the content promotion strategy really matters. So like generally when you think about like the big names in whatever industry you're in, there's probably a reason why they're so great. It's so only half of it is the content that they're producing. You know what I mean?
So in wrapping that a bit, what goes into an effective content distribution strategy?
You just have to find the leverage. I think it's a matter of being really, really great at one channel or two channels, as opposed to being mediocre or below average in 10 different channels. So like what I mean by this is like think about any content distribution channel like Twitter or Facebook or there's going to be a few influential people on Twitter, for example, that get so much of the benefit because they've got like millions of followers. And then if you're just kind of like one of these other kind of smaller accounts, with 10 followers, and you're trying to make it, you know what I mean? Like it's just not going to be as productive. So the key here is you have to find 2 or 3 of them and really nail it. And so for us, it was things like SEO. So like the blog. Like blogging and SEO, we are really, really good at link building and content marketing and just being able to get millions of views for this content around online advertising, which is kind of the product that we sell. SEO is one of our strong suits. It's actually one of my strong suits, and so kind of the DNA of the founder kind of it makes its way into kind of the strengths and weaknesses of the organization. Another one would be like just social, organic social, and paid social. Like just really nailing those, you know, I think those are pretty important.
Yeah. Do you think figuring out the top few is just a matter of testing and measuring and iterating?
It's also going to be where you have an unfair advantage. So like, you know, maybe you happen to have a lot of media dollars that you have to spend, or maybe you have a really good blogger, or maybe, you know what I mean. It's going to be like you're going to try to find one of these channels where you have an unfair advantage. Well, let me see if I can think of this one. For example, one of the channels that I recently adopted was Medium. Medium is like a blogging platform. And one of the things about Medium is that it allows you to import your followers from your Facebook account and from your organic Twitter account. There's going to be certain channels that you have like special abilities in, and it's more important to like really nail those one or two channels than it is to like check the boxes, like, you know, do because like usually when you have mediocre channel performance in a particular marketing channel, like it's like it's like, why did we bother, you know what I mean? It's all the value comes from like one or two channels, and they're different for different companies, but that's always the pattern.
Yeah, it's like that 80-20 rule.
I think it's more like 99-1, but
Okay.
but yes, same idea.
How do you measure success of your content strategy specifically? Are you super focused on conversions, or are you also concerned about things like brand awareness in general?
So at the top of the funnel here, where the content marketing is trying to, you know, create brand affinity, right? So did you know that people who are familiar with you are 2 or 3 times more likely to click on your result in a search results page? Like, and so, you know, in terms of the content marketing strategy, it's at a very high level, it's to generate brand affinity, to kind of bias people towards having happy thoughts towards the brand, so that later when the need arises to buy whatever it is you're selling, in our case it's PPC management software, you know, when that need does arise and they do search for that kind of solution, they'll either do a branded search, they'll search directly for Wordstream because they've heard of us before, or they'll do an unbranded search for something like, I don't know, PPC software or something. But then they'll kind of like say, oh, I've heard of these guys, you know, I think I should, you know, click on this one because, you know, why not? Because it's like, you know, 10 other things, and are you going to click on the one you haven't heard of? No, it's going to be, they're going to favor you. So at a high level, it's just you know, brand affinity. Now, that said, you know, we've got all these channel managers here. Like, there's a social advertising guy who's like trying to convert all those clicks into, like, you know, more harnessing those clicks into leads and sales using remarketing, and, you know, like they're doing other things down the funnel, or there's another girl here who works here who does webinars, so that's called lead nurturing, like, you know, having something, you know, to strike up a conversation with some of these colder leads from like a month ago or 2 months ago. So it's just like, you know, it's just getting them all into this funnel and kind of trying to move as many of them down as you can, as quickly as you can. That's kind of the thing, what we're doing here. I don't think it's that uncommon, like in terms of like, you know, other companies, but I think what is uncommon is that the results are remarkable. So like, we're able to generate millions of visitors to the site and convert that into you know, 30,000 leads per month, and growing at like 7% per month.
So you have all these different players working towards the same general goal, especially in sales and marketing. How do you but they all are working on different things and probably have different creative ideas. How do you keep everyone focused on those goals?
Well, for, you know, at a high level, you know, the management team, you know, like all the department heads, we get together and we set goals for a quarter, right? And usually it's like, you know, 3 specific measurable things that we hope to do in the next 3 months, and then we communicate those goals to our respective departments. So like, if you were, you know, the VP of marketing, you're going to then communicate those specific objectives to the to the team members, and like this is what we need to do as a department. It's a combination of top down and bottom up analysis. Okay, so top down would say, guys, no matter what, we need to grow the company by 50% this year. Okay,
Mhm.
and then so that's where you set the goal first, and like the BHAG, big hairy audacious goal, and basically you work backwards. You say, well, in order to get to 50% growth, that means we're going to need this many more demos, and in order to get many more demos, we're going to need this many more leads, which means we're going to have this many more people. That's like kind of starting at the top. And then the bottom up approach is just saying like where can we have the system in place that we have, like what happens if we add 1 more million to advertising, and you see what I'm saying. You're starting at the bottom and then just adding like inputs and then bubbling it up to say like, well, we can cut churn by 1%, and we could increase ad spend by 2 million and add 10 more sales reps, and then just calculate the impact of all these changes, and then come up with like, oh, if we do that, then we'll get to 45% growth or something. So like you start either from the bottom or the top. Usually it's both, and you kind of figure out a plan that seems to make sense, like when you in terms of like bottom up, because that means that you can do it, and top down because that means that it meets like a goal that you have in mind, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so it's far more strategic than just like picking arbitrary numbers.
I mean, a little bit of it is like there's these benchmarks, like oh, or whatever you do, you better not grow less than 30%, or you know what I mean. Like there is some randomness to it, but we're balancing out that randomness with like operational realities, like what's the most we could do in sales, and what's the best we could do in churn. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
how do you maintain such sustainable year-over-year growth?
well, it's a combination of doing what you did last year more efficiently. So that's like squeezing out operational efficiencies from your system. Like maybe there's a better way to sell your stuff, or other operational improvements. And then there's product improvements, and there's actually a lot more leverage in that. That's where you could introduce a new feature or function that dramatically increases engagement and reduces churn by 1 point or something like that. So it's just a combination of like these kind of disruptive innovations that kind of alter the characteristics of your revenue machine, combined with these kind of smaller operational changes that yield single-digit percent changes. But when you have enough of them, they add up to something.
Right. Cool. So switching gears a bit, I've read that your AdWords Performance Grader was your most powerful acquisition tool, right?
Yup. The company would not exist were it not for this free tool that took 3 months to build. So WordStream's around for like 7 or 8 years, and like 3 months of and 3 or 4 people working on the project kind of dramatically changed the future of the company. And so that just goes to show, like, remember we were talking about like 80-20 or whatever, and I said, well, I think it's 99-1. Like a small amount of effort and strategy can go a long way. There's a lot of leverage if you really nail it. And so this AdWords Grader, I had a free trial of my software, like how original, a SaaS company, offering a free trial of their SaaS platform. Why? Why do we do it this way? It's because everyone else was doing it that way. Okay, so. Anyways, one day I was looking at the conversion rates of our free trial, and it was like 2%, and that's pretty typical actually. But that just means that 98% of the people aren't surviving. Like they're not making it through the trial process. And I was thinking, like, why are we even offering a stupid trial? Why don't we offer something more interesting where they can kind of figure out what it is we're offering, quicker, and so the idea was like, why don't we just give them a report card of how they're doing in their AdWords account? And that was the idea. You just instead of having to learn all this user interface and all this stuff, all you need to do is you just log into AdWords, and like you OAuth with your credentials. We'll download a few reports and we'll benchmark them against other, like the performance of your account in terms of like how good is your click-through rate, how good is your cost per acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. How good is that compared to other vendors, like other advertisers in your industry, in your country, who are similar size as you, like spending a similar amount, and it gives you a score. It just says like, oh, you're in the bottom 10th percentile. I'm sorry, and you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just data, but people are obsessed with comparisons. Okay, so basically, marketers, they want to know how they're doing and if they're kicking ass or if they're getting their ass kicked, and this thing can actually tell you because it grades so many accounts that we've got $10 billion of data points. Anyways, it just makes it a big difference because now you've created a sense of urgency amongst the people who are buying this thing. So like before, it was a dumb trial that would take like 30 days, and maybe they'll buy it, maybe not. Like, just providing value isn't enough of a good reason to buy the thing. To buy the thing, they need to know, why should I buy it now, like right this moment. So this report card would say like, you're in the bottom 10th percentile, and oh, that agency that you're paying $10,000 a month to manage your account, they haven't logged into your account in 3 months. It really creates a sense of urgency, like oh God, I better call them back and get something set up Monday. So basically, this is called a growth hack. It's like a growth hack is just kind of a stupid buzzword that just means to say that we can pull people through our funnel, our buying funnel, from awareness to actual active consideration of the product in just a few seconds, whereas before that process would take weeks or months or never even happen. The result of this thing is that it's also a growth hack because our salespeople can look at that data and see like, oh, this person is not a great fit for our offering, or this person is a perfect fit for our offering. And they can, when they do the follow up, they can say, hey, I noticed you were struggling in these 3 areas. From having done a review of your account, and like that's so much more powerful than just saying, hey guy, do you want to look at my PowerPoint? You see what I'm saying? So it's a force multiplier in that it tells us who we should talk to, how we can talk to them, and creates urgency from the sense of the buyer. And the result is that the conversion rate to sales for this thing is 40%, not 20, not 2%. So,
yeah.
Kind of a game changer. Highly recommended.
That's incredible.
Well, yeah. When you do this kind of thing, that's how you generate these results. It's not by chasing after the 1% thing. It's these massive shifts from the technological innovation.
Yeah. So what do you think companies at an earlier stage, and you are at this point, can do to find their own acquisition goldmine, like the grader?
It's probably not a grader for your industry. Like, it's like different for everyone, but basically what it is, it's just a hook. Okay. So you just need something that's like, that would be to get your foot in the door. Like, what I've learned from this experience is that, like, once we have a relationship with somebody and they're buying something, like, we can sell them all sorts of other things. You see what I'm saying? But it's really hard to get their attention in the first place. And so I think instead of trying to sell them the whole kitchen sink like on day one, is there a piece of that functionality that you could peel away that would be very, very valuable to people, so you're giving away free value as a standalone? Could you give it away for free even? And could generate somehow interest in this thing. Now, the interesting thing about our grader is that, like, tens and tens of thousands of people run this thing every month. You see what I'm saying? Because they want to know how they're doing. It's just like, it's really a really cool report card. In fact, it auto generates hundreds of thousands of accounts, because like once you're signed in, and we retain the auth tokens, so it can send you a monthly report. You see what I'm saying? So like, it just means that there's a lot of follow-ups and a lot of opportunities to engage with this person. Like, there's got to be some piece of technology or some value that you can give away that would be very compelling, and then you just upsell from there.
Right. Cool. With that in mind, beyond being a founder, you're also obviously an expert in paid ads. From where you sit, what would you say are the biggest mistakes you see young companies making in their paid ad strategy?
Oh, how much time do you have? Just kidding. No, the biggest mistake in paid is that nowadays the cost per clicks are so high. 10 years ago, you could buy clicks for like 10 cents or 5 cents, but now it's like a few dollars a click or 50 cents a click. So you have to be a little bit more picky, basically. I mean, it still works, but you just have to cast a very narrow and specific net, and then maximize the kind of the performance metrics within that more picky net. So like you want to have very, very high click-through rates and very, very high conversion rates within the small net that you're casting. So it just means that you're gonna have to be a little bit more targeted. So for example, instead of blasting everyone who searched for a certain keyword, okay, which could be like a student, it could be like all these types of people who are outside of your target market. You don't want to spend $5 for every click on this keyword, right? You can do something called RLSA, that's remarketing lists for search ads. So what that does is it says, I'm only going to show my search ads to people who visited my website recently and also are searching for the keywords that I'm interested in. You see what I'm saying? So like by combining those two signals, that's like a 10x more ROI, because they're the people who are familiar with your brand, they're just so much more likely to click and convert. Do you follow? So,
Mhm.
so just that's one example of being more picky. Another example would be like uploading email addresses or phone numbers, like or job titles, like going after very, very specific people that meet your buyer demographic, and marketing to those people, as opposed to just like basically targeting everybody isn't. That's not a target market. We're gonna have to be a little more specific. That's all.
Gotcha.
The second biggest mistake is that you have to periodically make course corrections. So it's like you kind of see how it's doing and then analyze the data, and you then make the necessary adjustments to improve. And so a lot of times people are very busy and they don't have time to do that critical step of kind of analyzing the current performance and making like optimizations. And so I think by forgetting to do that, you're kind of giving up one of the biggest benefits of this channel, which is it's so measurable.
Do you think there's a certain time period that people should let ads run, or a specific target audience run? Is there like a industry standard for when to analyze those numbers?
Yeah, it's based on the volume of clicks. So, like, if you've got a small little, pizza shop, that does 10 clicks a week or something, then you probably don't have to look at it every month. But if you're spending millions of dollars a day, well, then you should be looking at it, once an hour. So it's basically inversely proportional to how much you're spending. If you're spending like a typical $10,000 a month on ads, I think that would warrant looking at your account at least once a week.
Does the standard click rate differ between like paid Twitter and paid Facebook? Would you say you're aiming for a different number there, or is it the same for paid social versus paid search?
It's completely different based on the medium. So in search, you're on search ads, your click-through rate is going to be directly related to the position. So like if you're in the top spot, then Google expects like a 20% click-through rate. You know what I mean? Like if you're in the second spot, then it's like a 8% click-through rate. So it varies by kind of your position. In social, again, the engagement rates, like that's basically kind of their version of click-through rates. They vary anywhere from like 0 to, I've seen them as high as 30-40%. So like, 4 out of 10 people who see this post think it's so funny that they want to play the video, or they want to click on or share or comment on this post. So like there's huge ranges of engagement rates, and so the key is to come up with something engaging. Like it's, believe it or not, if you just go on Facebook and you just have some stupid offer, like sign up for some dumb white paper or something, that's not likely to do that great. So like the companies that are being rewarded are the ones who can come up with something a little more clever, a little bit more a little less boring.
Totally. So To wrap things up a bit, do you have any other words of wisdom for founders in general who are, who are at that 10-person stage and trying to scale up quickly?
Yeah. So I think it's all about just projecting kind of your how great it's going to be, and kind of like the outcome that you're certain of, you just put on basically there's this thing where if you as a founder you project, like there's a funny way of people take those cues, and then and that becomes the reality. You know what I mean? So just you shouldn't, the things you shouldn't be doing are like worrying or like having a crisis, or like just be confident and project confidence, and that has a funny way of materializing. Your team will deliver usually. That's what I learned.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Larry. This has been awesome.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks for having me, and good luck, guys.
Thank you for listening to Gecko Board's Secrets for Scaling podcast. Hope to catch you next time.